You can convince me they're not lying about the inflation numbers.
Our economy currently is at a point that is worse than the Great Depression in comparison.
I wonder how they measured that.
They measured it by the housing market. They were measuring it by the price of food and groceries, and then just stable living. And they compared it with the inflation from the Great Depression to now. It's actually worse.
You can convince me they're not lying about the inflation numbers.
No.
Because they get to cherry pick what bucket they calculate inflation from.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that came out when I guess Biden was making his whole no, actually we've gotten inflation under control. They deliberately excluded housing affordability from the inflation calculators. Oh, don't worry. Pencils haven't gone up in price, but a place to live is, tripled. So, but other than that, no, there's really been no inflation. And if you say otherwise, you're crazy. Don't believe what you see. Believe me. Believe me. You don't need to believe your eyes. Believe me.
Why does everything feel more expensive?
Well, I think the main problem is that since January 2020, the price level of the CPI, meaning the price of everything that you and I buy on average, is up 25%. And you have basically almost never seen the price level go down. The inflation rate can certainly slow down, which it has done from 9% to roughly 3%. It feels expensive because housing is expensive, tuition is expensive, healthcare is expensive. Those are some of the components that have seen the biggest increases over the last 5 years.
So how do you guys get by? I'm really curious. Are you a two-income household? Do you have generational wealth? What's going on? Because everything is simply too expensive, and I just don't understand how people are getting by, especially if they have kids and normal jobs.
I went to a grocery store in a very rich area. We're talking median income north of $250,000. I saw something I've never seen before. There were canned goods on display, on sale, multiple of them. Beans, corn. You know what's usually on display in that area? Fancy pastas and Parmigiano Reggiano from the Parma region of Italy. Not beans. That is a recession indicator if I've ever seen one. It scared the shit out of me, I'm not gonna lie. If you're not very scared about your future and the future of this country, you should be. And I'm not saying that to fearmonger, you should be aware, you should know what's going on.
We live in New York City, so obviously everything is going to be super expensive. But this is just the most outrageous pricing I've ever seen.
Ridiculous.
We got 3 things. Feel Good Foods, the pork soup dumplings. I'm obsessed with them. I haven't tried this one yet, but we'll report back. Annie's pizza bagels. He wanted a Hot Pocket. Couldn't find him. Okay? Ben & Jerry's ice cream. 3 things. Guess how much these 3 things cost. Don't say. Don't tell them. 3 items.
It's a lot.
A lot of money. First person to guess. You know what? First person to guess it right.
We'll send you a pizza bagel.
I will Venmo you that amount of money. It is just absurd.
I actually cannot even believe that I'm about to say this right now, and this is going to come out of my mouth, but after almost a year in Miami, we are moving. Okay, so just to give a little bit of background info, my boyfriend and I moved down to Miami from the New York City area last summer, and we absolutely love it here. We are in the Midtown area. We love how close it is to the airport, to the design district, to Wynwood. It's close to the highway. You can be at the beach in 10-15 minutes. It's just very centrally located. And when we were looking at different areas of Miami to move to, this just really stood out to us. We loved how it was a little bit more chill than Brickell and downtown, but there were still things to do, and it seemed like a good place for young couples and young families to live. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely still feel that way. I love the building that we live in. I love the people in my building. Our staff is incredible. It's extremely safe. We have a Trader Joe's on our ground floor. I've made amazing friends in my building, but there are a few things that I feel are just not worth the cost of us staying in this building. So it is that time of year for us, and I'm sure a lot of other people. We got our lease renewal paperwork, and our lease renewal was not a huge rent increase, and we're really happy about that. It was only $105. However, as soon as we saw that, we're great. Oh, awesome. We hadn't really talked about staying or leaving, but the more we talked about it and the more that we talked to other people, it kind of made us reconsider. So Midtown is definitely not as hectic as downtown and Brickell are, which is a part of the reason why I chose this area. However, I do think it's going to eventually get that way with all the new construction happening here. And the thing is, before I decided to move into this building when I was still touring it, the leasing manager that was giving me the tour, he was like, oh, there is a new condo building that is going to be built directly across the street. So if you choose the corner units facing the construction, we give some type of a concession on rent because they're going to break ground sometime in the fall or winter. So I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good deal. But then I toured the center unit and I was like, oh, I'm not going to face the construction here. And he's like, yeah, that won't be an issue. So I chose the center unit. And here's the thing. Not only do I hear and see the construction literally all day, the crane for that new condo building that they recently broke ground for is right outside of my window. And my dog stares at it and barks at it all day. Super annoying. And that crane swirls around and drops cinder blocks onto that building that they're building. And it sounds like pew pew every few seconds. And we hear drilling and construction all day. And not only that, we live right behind where the train tracks are. And we hear the bright line every like 20, 30 minutes or so. And we're close to the airport, so we hear planes landing. And it's really noisy over here. Another thing is we have 2 balconies in our apartment. One that is just the private balcony on our bedroom, and then a main balcony that stretches from the living area to the other bedroom. The balcony in our bedroom is completely unusable because it is covered in soot, dust, dirt, and whatever construction materials they're using because the crane sits right there. So we have all this debris sitting on our balcony and it makes it completely unusable. And we've contacted the leasing office about it, and other residents are dealing with the same issue, and they have never sent anybody to clean it. So that balcony is just unusable. It's impossible to clean on our own, and I don't know if it is worth spending the money for a professional balcony cleaner to come and do that for us, because usually they like spray stuff and have to connect a hose, and it's a whole ordeal. So a few weeks ago, we got our lease renewal forms in the mail, and we saw that it was only a $105 rental increase. We were like, okay, that's not that bad, especially because where we lived up north, they were increasing our rent like hundreds of dollars every year. So $100 was like not crazy, and we hadn't had any like in-depth conversations about like staying or leaving. But once we had more in-depth conversations, we realized not only was it not worth spending a penny more than what we were spending now, what we're spending now was entirely too much, especially if we want to meet certain financial goals in the future and also invest in property in like the next year or two. Just to be fully transparent, I don't pay the rent. My boyfriend does. I pay for the Wi-Fi and I do a lot of like the cooking and cleaning. I enjoy doing that, and that's also what we found works best in our relationship. If something else works better for you, that is great, but that's just what we found works best for us. Also, I always joke around and say I'm a stay-at-home girlfriend, but I'm not. I actually do have my own business, and I do some freelance work and clinical research work on the side. My boyfriend has a full-time, like serious big boy 9-to-5 job, and he works from home most of the time if he is not traveling. Also, we make every decision together, especially when it comes to financial decisions regarding living together. And like I said, in the spirit of full transparency, what we would be spending on rent all in, including the necessary things that our building makes us pay for that are extra, like, you know, parking, pet fees, water, trash, and our utilities like electricity, Wi-Fi, what we would be spending all in would be $5,400. And yes, we could afford it on paper multiple times, but like I said, if we want our lives to look a certain way in a year from now, 2 years from now, that is entirely too much money to be spending in rent. I also just want to say that $5,400 a month in rent and mandatory apartment-related expenses does not include our groceries, going out to eat, self-employment taxes, our phone bill, car insurance, traveling, little things that we might want to do for fun, other, you know, home decor, furniture, shopping for clothes, little things that might pop up. You get where I'm going with this, right? All of that plus $5,400 a month is not feasible long term, especially if we want our lives to look a certain way and if we want to feel a certain level of comfort a year or 2 years from now. Lifestyle creep is absolutely real, and I'm not ashamed to talk about it. I think it's a very important conversation to have, especially for young people that might be earning a lot but also spending way too much. Our lease is up in early June, so I'd love to hear some suggestions on where we should start looking. As much as I love this area, we are trying to get outside of this area, so any suggestions outside of Midtown, Edgewater, Brickell, downtown Wynwood are much appreciated. Something good for a young couple, honestly. I absolutely love the beach and the water, and that's part of the reason I moved here, so I wouldn't mind being closer to or even on the beach. I also wouldn't mind being a little bit further north of us, like Aventura, Sunny Isles, Broward, if we want to get real crazy. Also, I wouldn't mind even going a little bit further south towards like the Gables, Coconut Grove. But I hope that this resonated with somebody, and thank you for watching.
I honestly don't know how people 18 to 30 right now are just going to work and acting like nothing's happening. This is going to be a deep dive into the modern American dream and what people need to realize if they are young in their career right now. And if you are just doom scrolling, go ahead and go to the next one. But if you are actually serious about taking career advice from someone who has left a 300K a year corporate job to run their own business in 2025, let's talk. I just want to give you a little bit of context as to where we are at and mapping this to past trends in the US. My mom's parents, my dad's parents, neither of them went to college. They grew up in a small town, a manufacturing town back when the United States was the manufacturing capital of the world. And what happened when I go to their towns now, which is a small town in Indiana and a small town in South Carolina, there's a graveyard of factories that are completely empty. They have been deteriorating for 20 to 30 years. Right now, if you are 18 to 35, we are just like our grandparents who are working at a factory. There's a clear path. Maybe you're in tech and there's a high paying job. You can save money. You can live a good lifestyle. But you know what just happened? And this is the same shit as our grandparents experienced is, hey, they're working at the Ford factory and it's going great. But you know what? GM just announced they're moving their facilities to China. And, oh, that's okay. Hey, Cursor is replacing the need for engineers at tech companies. Some of the biggest investment banks in the world are forecasting a recession, but hey, it hasn't hit me yet. I'm making 150K. I'm just going to save 10% more this month. The same exact shit is happening right now, guys. And if you are 18 to 35, you have two choices. You can hold on to your slightly above average, higher than normal paying job, and you can wait 3 to 5 years until you finally get cut. And then you've got to figure it out when you're even more entrenched in your lifestyle, or you can actually start building or changing careers right now. If you have the ability to go really deep on the technical side and you understand that world, maybe that's a path for you. But if not, and I'm dead serious, guys, you need to learn how to sell right now. I don't see a path in 2050 and beyond where almost any type of job is still in demand. Now, sure, there's going to be programmers, there's going to be analysts, there's going to be lots of different, traditionally high-paying roles, but with how much software is doing, there's going to be less of those jobs available because AI is going to be a co-pilot and making those jobs execute much faster with less people. And additionally, the pay bands for those, which right now a highly skilled software engineer can still command 400 to 500K, that is going to slow down, and overall, on average, that is going to come down further and further. There is no advantage anymore in being a great programmer like there was between 2000 and 2020, where if you were the first person to market, you made the first Uber of whatever, you had a real chance of building a successful, fast-growing business. That is commoditized. I built a ChatGPT bot yesterday in an hour that automated 5 hours of work per week, and I don't even know how to program. So if you do not know how to sell, I recommend getting an entry-level sales job at a reputable company, especially if you have a solid background, so you can just understand the skills of how to carry a one-on-one conversation, how to sell a higher ticket item business to business, and or maybe you don't necessarily want to do that if you are not learning how to play the social media game, if you are not trying to build a YouTube, a TikTok, or an Instagram. Just pick one. You don't have to do all three at the beginning. But if you are not learning that, guys, I don't see a future where 10 years from now, you're going to have a real chance to compete against AI and so many jobs. So with that being said, I'm giving honest career advice of someone who has left their 300K corporate job because I built an online business that is bigger than that salary. If you want more of that advice, that is what this channel is about. And I also make tons of free in-depth guides on YouTube about tech sales as well. So yeah, let me know where you're at. Let me know if you agree, disagree, and